Hi and welcome. This video is designed to get you started with your very own Google Classroom. We are first going to start by creating your own subjects and or topics depending on if you're an elementary or a secondary teacher. We're going to talk about how to add materials, the difference between materials and assignments, how to add co-teachers to your class, and then enrolling students into your class, and then finally how to give quick polls or questions as great exit tickets within your Google Classroom. Remember, you can stop and pause the video at any time to go ahead and try those concepts for yourselves. So let's get started. Hi, welcome to your Google Classroom homepage. If you go to classroom.google.com, you will be taken to your homepage, or if you're inside of any Google app, you can click on the waffle and find the classroom icon in Google. This section is called your homepage. It is where all your classes are housed. Whether you're enrolled in the class as a student or you are teaching the class as a teacher. Let's walk through your homepage just a little bit. You see the Google Classroom banner, and over on the left-hand side, I call this the main menu or the hamburger menu. When you click on it, you can be at the class home. You can also go to your calendar that shows you all the things with your classes. If you're teaching, there'll be a section where you see all of the classes you're teaching, and there's a little to review section we'll get to later. If you're a student, there'll be a to-do section for things you need to do in your classes, and you're going to see all of the classes that you're enrolled in. You will also see the archived classes, and then you can also have a settings tab where you can change your settings of, let's say, if you would like to receive different types of notifications if you have an alert in Classroom. So that's a little walkthrough of your homepage. We're going to focus over here on this plus sign to create a class because we're starting to create a new class. When you click Create Class, a menu will pop up asking you to put in your class name, section, subject, and room. If you're a secondary teacher, these things might be relevant. If you're a primary teacher, maybe not. I have already created an elementary and a secondary class that we're going to practice in. So let's come on over to our secondary class for practice. When you are on your main page, this is called your stream. Your stream goes through all the different things in chronological order. So anything you post, whether it's an assignment or an announcement, are all going to show on this stream in chronological order with the newest information appearing at the top. Your students and you will be included into any upcoming work that is due on this left-hand side. You'll see the title of your class, a class code, which we'll talk about shortly, that you can help use to get your students enrolled, and also if you would like to generate a Meet link so that your students can join Google Meets. Now let's talk about a little quick tip. You can go through and select some of the themes if you would like to personalize your Google Classroom. There's going to be a gallery of different clip arts or different pictures that you can go through to personalize your Google Classroom. Or you can even make it super personal by uploading a photo. Now you can go into a Google Drawing, or you can create in any other creator you wish a photo that you can use as a personalized banner as long as it meets the required sizes. So that is a little walkthrough of your main page, your home page, and then the stream. We'll get to the other things shortly. Let's talk about setting up your subjects or your topics. I'm going to start with a secondary classroom, and we're going to set up different topics because in a secondary classroom, you're probably teaching the same subject most of the day, and you should have a different classroom for each subject. I'm going to go over to now my classwork tab. So we've already discussed the stream. Now I'm going into my classwork tab. In my classwork tab, I'm going to have a place that I can create. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a topic. These topics are going to help keep my Google Classroom classwork organized. So I might have different topics. Maybe chapter 1 might be a topic I'm going to add. Maybe chapter 2, it might be unit 1. So you're going to create your topics so that everything, when you make assignments, will be nested under a particular topic. Let's go over very quickly into my elementary class and how this is going to look. So to create instead of topics in an elementary class, an elementary teacher is probably teaching several different subjects. So what I did when I created a topic, instead of making it a chapter 1 or chapter 2, I'm going to add in a different topic. So I already have reading and math, as you can see. So now I'm going to make this second grade. We already have reading and math, so let's put some science in there. I'm going to add my topic, but I'm sure you're wondering about those little icons. The icons really help make the item pop out and help with those emerging readers see. So what we're going to do is right click, and I'm going to click where it says emoji. What I'm going to do is find a sciencey looking emoji to pop in there. Click add. And now you can see I have another topic. If I want my topics to be in different order, I can click and I can drag them around and my topics will change order. So if you're an elementary teacher and you're teaching multiple subjects, I recommend making each subject a different topic. If you are a secondary teacher, so back over to our secondary classroom, I recommend making those topics your different chapters. What exactly are class materials? Materials would be things like a syllabus or maybe a list of classroom resources to help your students. I'm going to start with a secondary classroom. In a secondary classroom, I probably want a place for my students to easily access these things. So I'm going to create a topic for class resources or class materials, so that my students at any time can go to the class material section in the classwork tab and they can find these class materials. Maybe within there, I'm going to post a material that will be the syllabus. You can give a description of what you want them to do with the syllabus. You can add a item from your Google Drive or pull a link or a file even from your hard drive, and you can pull that syllabus in for your students to read and access at any time from your drive or from your files, and your students will be able to see and engage with or read that syllabus that you post. So I have nothing attached here now, but over here is something you want to pay super close attention to. Over here on this right-hand side where it says no topic, I want that to be nested under that class materials. So I'm going to click class materials. I'm sure you're wondering what's the difference between a materials and an assignments. Remember, materials are things you just want students to be able to read or click on or access. You really don't want them to do anything. You don't want them to really interact with these items. It's just something for them to reference. So think of syllabus or think of the class materials as like references for your class. There's no due dates or anything when I posted it, and so it's just something that students can reference in class materials. You can do the same exact thing in an elementary class. You can have a section of class materials. So I can create topic. I can say class materials. Maybe I want to add a website. That would be something they can reference. Maybe there's a specific website we go to a lot. Maybe it's a Spelling City or something like that. We can go ahead and link those things by hitting create material. I could even add the link to something such as Spelling City. If I could spell, that would be helpful. I can add that link to Spelling City. I'm going to make sure I nest that topic underneath my class materials, and then I want to post, so that when my students go to class materials and they click on Spelling City, they'll be able to easily access that link to Spelling City. So that is what class materials is versus an assignment. For all of us that teach a class within a class or have a co-teacher, you probably want that teacher to be able to access your Google Classroom. So let's see how we can add a co-teacher to the class. At the top on our tabs, we have Stream, Classwork, and People. Click on the People tab. On the People tab, you're going to see teachers and students. Let's first get a co-teacher involved. I'm going to click on Invite Teachers, and then I can start typing in the email of the teacher I want to be my co-teacher. So if I want JP Presevento to co-teach this class with me, I would type in his name and click Invite. He will then receive an invitation which he can accept to then do all the same things in the class as I would be able to do, except for delete the class. A co-teacher can add assignments, co-teachers can grade, co-teachers can do all the same things. Now let's get some students enrolled in our class. There are two different ways you can enroll students in your class. I'm in my elementary class. So if I'm an elementary teacher, I'm going to have my roster before school starts, and I can cordially invite my students to join before school even starts. I can type in all of their names or email addresses and invite them to be students in my class. If I want to invite JP Presevento to be a student, I would click on his name and then I would click Invite. However, you can also copy the invite link and send it as a mass email to all of your students, or even to through parents for smaller students. That's two ways you can invite students to your class. I'm going to pop into my secondary class, hit that People tab, and what I'm going to do instead is when all of my students come to class for the first time, they're going to get out their devices, open Google Classroom, and they're going to instead use this class code. I'm going to display this class code on the front of my board and ask all the students to type in this class code. Remember when we were on those home screens and you had a chance to join a class? When you click that Join a Class button, there is where the class code is put. So when my students go to join class, they're going to input that class code that is going to be displayed on my screen like this. So those are several ways that you can invite your co-teachers and your students to be in your class. When I'm ready for my students to actually do and interact with a task, I'm going to head over to the Classwork tab and start creating assignments for my students to do. I'm going to click the Create button and I'm going to click where it says Assignment. I can title the assignment. So my students were learning about mitosis. So maybe they need to complete the mitosis lab. I'll type out some instructions for them, and then I want to actually input the lab that I want them to do. If I have a template or if I have something I want the students to fill out or engage with, I'm going to click Add. If I have that item in my Google Drive, I'm going to get it straight from my Google Drive. It will go by recent, upload. You can go to your drive and search through the different folders. It just depends how you have it set up. So there I have my mitosis virtual lab, and I'm going to insert it. Now, there is something very, very close, or something very important you need to pay close attention to. Focus in here where it says students can view file. What do I want my students to actually do with this? Do I just want them to look at that sheet? If so, you want to leave it as students can view file. However, I want my students to interact with the sheet. I want them to each have their own where they can type their own answers into their own paper. I'm going to click Make a Copy for each student. When I click Make a Copy for each student, that means that every student is going to receive their own digital copy, just like if I would have gone to school and waited in line at the copy machine and put down a piece of paper and clicked 100 copies. So it's going to make a copy for every single student. Be very wary where it says students can edit file. That means every single student can edit the same file you send. So that means all 100 and something of my students will all be on the same lab sheet. That's not what I want in this case. There's a time and a place for that, but not this time. So if I want each student to do their own, I'm going to click Make a Copy for each student. Over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to decide what class or classes I can assign this to. So if you have several classes of the same subject, you can decide on several classes of the same subject and click on those. You can even decide which students specifically will receive that assignment. If you have certain students that are going to receive different copies of things, maybe some different modified copies according to their IEP or 504 needs, you can assign different copies to different students. You decide how many points it's going to be worth, or if it's worth no points at all. Assign a due date. You can even assign a due time. And then, very important, remember how we talked about topics? So if I am in my elementary classroom, or if I'm in my secondary classroom, I want to make sure I nest that under the appropriate topic. Is it in a certain unit, a certain chapter, or in my elementary case, is that going to fall under a certain subject? So if I'm learning about mitosis, that goes into my science topic. And then I'm going to click Assign. Takes a few minutes to think, and then it's going to assign underneath where it says science, it says mitosis lab. Another thing I would like to mention when you are creating your assignments is if you like to plan ahead, you can absolutely plan ahead and post assignments in Classroom, but not have them show to their students right away. So let's say that I wanted to create an assignment for my reading group. So I'm going to put reading work. I would add something. Now, before I assign, and when I'm going to nest it in my topic, remember it is reading. So before I end up clicking Assign, notice how there's a little drop down over here to the right-hand side of where it says Assign. If I click that little drop down, I can schedule, where I can have that assignment drop or show up on my Google Classroom at a specific date and time. Or if I still want to keep working with that, I can save it as a draft, and that draft will be saved, and I can go back and work with it at any time. As you can see, as we have been adding materials and assignments to our Google Classroom, you can see how our stream has been filling with the newest things showing up at the top. Let's talk about asking our students questions. So maybe you want to have a quick poll asking students if they're ready for an upcoming test, or maybe pose a question as an exit ticket at the end of class that you want students to answer. Let's go to the button that says Create. In that button that says Create, we're going to use the question feature. There are two types of questions that you can ask your students. You can have it be short answer, or you can have it be multiple choice. Multiple choice would be a great option for a poll. Maybe you just want to take a very quick formative assessment about this choice or that choice. So just something very quick and easy. Or you can also ask a short answer question. So in the place where it says question, you will pose the question. So let's say, how ready are you for the test? I'm going to make that multiple choice. You could say very ready, kind of ready, etc. You can even add some materials to that if you want them to see that. You can make it worth points, or you can make it not worth points if you're just making a poll. Remember, if you want to plan ahead and you want to schedule or you want to draft that, you can schedule or draft that as well. And your students will then, at the time given, they will be able to answer the question, how ready are they for the test? So that's what a multiple choice question would look like. You can also decide if your students want to see the class summary. So if it's a poll, you can see how the class has responded, or you can decide not how the class has responded. Don't forget to nest it under a particular topic if you're having that math test coming up. Another thing you could do, a great exit ticket, would be ask one question you have about the test. So instead of a multiple choice question, now it's going to be short answer. And your students are going to be prompted to type a question that they have about the test. And you can nest it under wherever it belongs. You can allow students to reply each other and run it like a chat thread, or you can allow students to edit their answers. Those things are completely up to you, but that would be a great way to also run a chat thread where students can discuss things that they are concerned about or things that they're ready to share with other students about a particular topic. So that's called a question. When you're ready to ask the question, you're going to click Ask. We nested that under math. When I click on the question, it says question created. I'm going to view the question. And so student answers would show up in this section here. You can see the question is posed here and students' responses will be posted. So it is a quick and easy way using that question, create question, would be a way you could ask a single question as a great warm-up or as a great exit ticket for any class. I do not suggest using the question feature for an entire quiz. That is a whole nother topic for another day. Some quick other tips and tricks I want to show you is if you're ready to get rid of a class or you have an old class that you want to not see on your display anymore, you can easily click these three little dots and you can either move the class to the bottom of your screen or you can archive the class. When you archive a class, it's going to take that entire class and it's going to move it into the section that says archived classes. We're going to find all the classes that are no longer active. Those materials are still there if you need to access them, but students are no longer able to interact with the things within that class. So those are your archive classes. You're also going to find in that little hamburger section, you're going to find your settings. Something you might want to check on your settings, how often do you want to get or do receive email notifications when things happen within your classroom? Do you want to know every time a student comments on your post? Do you want to know every time a student turns in something late? Some of these questions you may say yes, and some of these questions you might say no to. So you can click on your preferences and turn those on, or you can turn those off at any time. Gray means off, blue means on. One other quick thing to note is if you are in your classes that you're enrolled in. So if you're a student now, let's put ourselves in our student shoes. If you're enrolled in classes, there is a to-do section for your students. All of the classes that they have things that are either missing or upcoming are going to display in this to-do section. So that is something that I've been trying to show students so that they can help stay organized and they can stay on top of their to-do list and things they need to do in Google Classroom. One other thing I would like to show you is when you are in your classes. So I'm going to go back to our Practice Elementary class. When you're in the Classwork tab, you can go to where it says Google Calendar, and it will show all of your work in your Google Calendar. You can also go straight to that folder in your class drive where all of your student work will be housed. When it is time to actually grade work, you will go to where it says the assignment in the Classwork tab, click on View Assignment, and then you'll click where it says Student Work. All of the students' work will be displayed in this section here, and you will open up each student work one at a time.